All right, we move on, and tonight we begin with a major escalation in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced plans to take control of Gaza City. He signaled a potential full-scale operation of the Gaza Strip. Now, this move defies international warnings and has sparked debate within Israel, with the military's chief of staff reportedly opposing it. What is the United States' response? Well, a notable silence. President Trump has called it Israel's decision, while Ambassador Mike Huckabee has emphasized it's not America's role to intervene. And this marks a shift from the White House's earlier push for a Gaza ceasefire and reconstruction plans. In fact, experts suggest that Netanyahu may have tacit US support, even as allies like France, the United Kingdom and Canada, they are pushing for Palestinian statehood to pressure Israel towards moving towards peace. In fact, as ceasefire talks with Hamas collapse and tensions rise, the path forward remains uncertain. So the question is this United States return to non-intervention or a strategic move to force concessions? Well, we unpack the implications of this developing story, but let's first listen into what the US president had to say when asked on the Gaza question.
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food, and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel's going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel.
All right, and to discuss more on this story, I'm now joined by Manju Seth, who's a former Indian ambassador. Thank you very much, Ms. Seth, for joining us here on ET Now. In fact, in the past, many have questioned the United States on its attacks on Iran when it, launched those attacks in support of Israel. It's not been able to stop the war now as well. And now with these recent statements that are coming in from the United States, is the United States at a risk of getting even more isolated by its allies, given the fact that it's been largely silent on Israel's pounding of Gaza?
Absolutely. I think it's a very difficult and complex situation in the whole of the Middle East. But yes, particularly the Israel and Hamas war that has been going on, and the threat now by Israel to occupy Gaza. I think maybe it's a tactic or a pressure tactic to make Hamas, because Hamas seems to be sitting pretty comfortably right now and is in no mood to negotiate. And this may be also an attempt by Israel to put pressure on them to come to the negotiating table. And the release of the hostages, which was key, and which was one of the reasons why this war has gone so long. I think Hamas has to accept responsibility for this, and at the same time, Israel needs to. I think it's a very difficult situation, the way there are these cross currents and currents running in the whole of the Middle East. And as you said, Israel had and the US attacked Iran, and then it's going different things happening at different times, and now the US seems to have left
Right.
Israel to its own devices.
Right, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's becoming a difficult situation.
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. But do you? Absolutely, it's a difficult situation, not just for the geography, but ma'am, would you also say that there are fissures emerging within the Trump administration, given that President Trump has called it Israel's decision, while Ambassador Mike Huckabee has emphasized that it's not America's role to intervene?
Yeah, it is a little difficult again for the US also, given what is, you've seen how since President Trump has come, he has made these statements about bringing immediate peace, immediate truce, peace talks. They've tried to broker, but I think nothing has worked so far. And now, again, we find that again there is some difference in different voices emerging from the US, from different different officials, and from the president himself. But I think that is also maybe that is also because this kind of statement by Israel couldn't have come without the tacit support of the US. It is there in the background.
Right.
And that is why they've left it to Israel to find a solution. Because I think his interventions have not so far, borne fruit.
Right.
So it's becoming very difficult for them.
Right, but in the past, they have been
allies.
seen to aid. In the past, ma'am, they have been seen to aid Israel whenever it was about attacking Iran in the recent past. But will it mark the end of American influence in the region, given the fact that America's allies have criticized this?
No, I don't think it is the end of the U.S. influence, but yes, it may be slightly diminished, but no, it's not the end, I believe. And because the U.S. influence is, is very palpable there, and especially with Israel. But yes, its ability to influence the actions of Israel is a bit diminished, but it's not the end, I think. And the fact that the UK and France have said, and other countries have said that they would recognize a separate Palestinian state. As you're aware, India has always also been supportive of a two-nation sort of solution to this whole long-standing conflict that has been going on. But Israel, while I think it had in some years back agreed to this two-state solution, the Hamas and the Palestinians were not ready at that time, I think, from what I recall, to go in, and there was no movement on settling the issue once and for all. And the fact that they took these hostages and now are not releasing them,
right, ma'am,
they're unconcerned. It shows maybe they are not that serious about going ahead.
Right, ma'am.
A solution to this.
Right, ma'am. So this major escalation in the Middle East definitely is going to have ramifications, even as Netanyahu has stated his plans to take complete control of the Gaza city. A full-scale invasion is essentially what Netanyahu could essentially be looking at. Thank you very much on that note.